Hello, let's talk about this idea of destructuring. Now, before we even get into this, I'm going to tell you that there is two ways to basically pull data out of an array or an object. And so I think the best way to really learn this is just by doing it. So I'm going to reduce some of the spacing here in that size because that was getting a little large. And so if we have an array, so let's create a regular variable. It's called ARR, short for array, and it has names in here. So it's got Caleb, Nathan, and Zephyr. Now, if I wanted to get Caleb out of this, I would have to say, let's say const Caleb is equal to ARR 0, and const Nathan is equal to ARR 1. And we could loop through this and try to assign this, but basically we'd just be assigning it back to another variable in the form of an array or an object. And so, if you have, for example, an array that has 100 names in it, you do not want to be doing this 100 times. That's pretty painful. And so what we can do instead is this idea of destructuring. And really all we're saying is, hey, we want to grab these and throw them into their own variables. So let's go ahead and destructure this array. So let's go ahead and let's use a let. And this is going to look like a list, but on the wrong side of a variable. So this is on the left side instead of the right side of the equal sign. So it's going to look something like this, which looks a little bizarre, but we'll break this down. So first we want to get Caleb, Nathan, and Zephyr. And then instead of an array here, let's just actually put the array variable. Let's go ahead and save this and refresh our page. Looks like nothing happened, but it's all in here now. All of a sudden, these are actual variables that can be accessed in your application. Now, this is not really a super useful example, to be totally honest. Okay, so let's create a new example here, something more useful. I'm going to ask for my name. Prompt, what is your full name? And so we know that this is going to return a string, so this is going to be a string. We know that my name is going to be Caleb space Tallene, and so we can split it on here. And then we could do var, or rather let, first name, last name, is equal to full name dot split on every space. Now there are some logic flaws in this because what if someone puts multiple spaces in here? Yes, that's going to break the script. However, in this example, it won't. So ideally, when you're working in production or more professional JavaScript, you'll have ways of mitigating this particular problem where someone puts in multiple spaces. Maybe you just reduce multiple spaces into one space. Let's go ahead and console log this. Console.log first name is the first name. And last name is the last name. Let's go ahead, refresh. What is my full name? Caleb Tallene. Spelled my own name there wrong. Caleb is the first name, Tallene is the last name. And so this is destructuring in a better way. Without destructuring, we would have had to do this a different way. So let's go ahead and comment that out. What we would have had to do was full name is equal to full name dot split. So we have to split it either way. And then we could do var, let, or const. Let's do const because my name is not going to change. First name is equal to full name. And it is the 0 index, the first one in the array. And the last name. And when I refresh the page, give us a shot. Let's not use my name. Let's use John Smith. John is the first name. Smith is the last name. So it still works, but this way we had to actually write more lines of code. We had to write 3 more lines of code, or I guess 2 more lines of code, instead of just writing 1 line of code. So I'm going to comment that out, keep this up here, and you can reference this code at any point in time. So that is destructuring an array. There's actually much more to this though. So this is just regular destructuring. I'm going to actually comment out this stuff because I don't want that to run right now. What if we have, let's go back to our first example here. What if we have more than these names, but we just want the first 3 for whatever reason? So I want to get Caleb, Nathan, and Zephyr, but what if there's also Prairie, Henry, Vito, and Maya? If we run this, what's going to happen? And I always invite people to try things. You're not going to break anything by running JavaScript locally on your computer. It's okay to test things. So if it breaks, that's totally fine. Let's go ahead and hit refresh. Okay, we've got Caleb, we've got Nathan, we've got Zephyr. We probably don't have Prairie. Nope. We don't have Henry. Nope. What's the other one? Vito, Maya. These are all reference errors. These variables don't exist yet. So what if we wanted to get the rest of them? Well, in JavaScript, there's this thing called rest. And so instead, what we can say is I'm going to actually copy this because I don't want to type out all that again. So we're going to destructure Caleb, Nathan, and Zephyr. Those are just the first three. They don't actually have to be the same name. They could be anything else. And in JavaScript, we can do this thing where we have this fancy ... rest. And then let's go ahead and console.log whatever the rest is. So let's go ahead and refresh console.log. We have Prairie, Henry, Vito, and Maya. That is all the other ones that are in here. Now, this is called a rest. You do not have to use the name rest. It could be anything else. It is signified by the ... notation or the ... syntax. So let's just say everyone else, just to prove that we don't need to call it rest. And voila, it works the exact way we are expecting. All right, I'm gonna comment that out, and we have one more. We can also destructure objects. So let's go ahead and create a new object. Object person is going to be me because reasons, I guess. So the name is going to be Caleb. My age is going to be 30. And the number of cats I have is going to be 2. And my favorite food is going to be pizza. So again, we run into the same problem where if I wanted to just get my name and store that in a variable, I would have to write const name is equal to person.name. Const age is equal to person.age. Const cats is equal to person.cats. I think you get the idea here. Instead, we can destructure this. And so let's go ahead and throw these all in. Let's do a let here, I guess. So let's do a let. And we're not working with an array, so we're not going to use the array syntax. We're going to use the object syntax, and it's going to look like this. Basically, it's the object sign on the right, object sign on the left. On the right, we can actually replace this with the actual object variable itself. So this is like saying all of this is in here. And then let's say I just wanted to get the name and food. I could do name and food, console.log, name is name, and food is food. Let's go ahead, give this a shot. Name is Caleb, food is pizza. This one didn't have to go in order. It did with the array when we destructured an array, but with an object, because everything's named, all we said is, hey, get the name. So that's the key here. Also get the key called food. All the other ones, we don't care about. But let's take this one step further. We can actually get a little more complicated with this, because what if this key name is something obscure, like first name for the user? Why this would happen? I don't know, but occasionally things like this do happen. And so you'd have to put that name in there. That is just terrible. And so let's just make sure that this does work. Let's save, refresh, and there it is. My name is Caleb. But now you have this gross variable called first name for the user. What we can do is reassign this. And because basically we're creating an object on the left here and then reassigning the key to a variable name, that was a little confusing. We can basically say, hey, this is the key that we want to extract. And what is the variable name we want to use? Let's just call it first name. And we can, if this makes more sense for you, put this on multiple lines as well. Let's go ahead, put this on multiple lines. And this just looks a little cleaner, especially with my font being so big. But this is basically saying, hey, grab that key, and then we're going to reassign it to the variable called first name. Let's go ahead, save, and refresh. And sure enough, it still works. And just to really make sure it works, definitely not Caleb. There it is. Name is definitely not Caleb. So we know that this is working. And so to reassign this, all you have to do is say food, put a colon in there so it's your key. So let's actually do this. It's going to be your key, and then whatever your new var name is. In this case, we're going to say food is going to be remapped to favorite food. And now this is a little more verbose in the rest of our application. So we could say favorite food. There it is. We could even go as far as setting properties that don't even exist yet. So I am just going to undo some of this, just to keep this looking nice and tidy. Okay, so I just undid a bunch of that so our code looks nice and clean still. And what if there's a property in here that I'm looking for that does not exist? So let's say, for whatever reason, I'm supposed to have a favorite color. And let's say that color is supposed to be blue. But for whatever reason, this person object does not have that. Well, what we could say in here is color, and then we can just say is equal to blue. And when I do this, favorite food is, let's change this to fav color. And there it is. Favorite color is blue. And so now we're actually setting the default value. But what happens if this is in here? This already exists. We change this to red. Do you think this is going to stay blue because we're assigning color is equal to blue? Or do you think this is going to try to grab this, and if it doesn't exist, then use the color blue? Let's go ahead and experiment and find out. And again, I always recommend just testing things. It can be fun just to testing to see how they work behind the scenes. Okay, so I hit refresh and it says favorite color is red despite this saying blue. It's because it actually does exist in the person object. This is just setting a default value. Like when we're writing a function with a default value for a parameter, that's the exact same thing we're doing here. Now, what I'm going to let you do on your own as a little experiment here is I want you to create an object such as this, and then I want you to destructure that object. But what I want you to do is use a rest, and I want you to figure out what is stored in this rest. You might need to add new properties in here to make sure that this rest actually shows something additional, or maybe not, depends on how you write it. But I entice you to give this a shot and just tinker around with it and have some fun. See what this rest does. console.log.rest. So at the end, console.log rest, and just see what that returns. So go ahead, give that a shot. If you don't understand everything in this video, guess what? That's totally okay. You are not expected to know every single thing from every single video permanently moving forward. Coding doesn't work that way. Learn as much as you can, and when you're feeling a little fed up or bored of destructuring, then move on to the next lesson. And if you ever see destructuring out in the wild, maybe you're reading some source code and you go, oh, how come it says let curly brace name food color curly brace is equal to some object? Or maybe you're seeing a destructured array. Either way, you're going to be prepared for whatever code is going to be thrown at you.